Senator Moran, one of those who has been vocally opposed to the signing of this treaty, and he joins us now to talk about it. Senator, thank you so much for your time, sir.
I'm glad to be with you, and I'm glad to highlight once again that the Second Amendment rights of Americans is under attack, once again by this administration. And today, with Secretary Kerry's signature, the administration is doing something that we have told them over the last 2 years would never be ratified by the United States Senate.
The Secretary said very explicitly today, he said, look, this isn't going to do anything to threaten or intrude on the Second Amendment rights of anybody's or anybody's right to own firearms. Clearly, you disagree with that, Senator. Why is that?
Well, I absolutely do disagree with that, and I would want to see strong, firm language reaffirming the constitutional rights of citizens in countries that have those rights. That's a point that we've made to the administration from day one. Any treaty that you negotiate explicitly needs to protect the law-abiding citizen rights, the right to bear arms, the opportunity for individual citizens to own firearms. This treaty certainly doesn't do that, and in fact, it is so ambiguous that we don't really know what it does. And to allow the United Nations to make a decision about what an ambiguous set of words mean, there aren't many people that I would trust to make decisions about constitutional rights, the freedoms of Americans, but it certainly wouldn't be an organization associated with the United Nations determining what ambiguous language means when it comes to the rights and freedoms of American citizens.
You know, and it's interesting, Senator, because recently when President Obama was talking about unilateral action against Syria, he rejected the idea of going to the United Nations. He basically deemed it to be an ineffective body that isn't capable of ensuring that despots get punished when chemical weapons are used. But this is the correct body, according to the Obama administration, to determine the Second Amendment rights of American citizens?
That's a point well made. I had not thought about the president's suggestion that the United Nations is not a place to have these issues determined in one case, but is in another. And I would say that the Obama administration is out of step with the previous two administrations, one Republican, one Democrat, both who decided not to pursue negotiations with the United Nations in regard to arms trade, in regard to firearms. This administration, different than President Bush, President Clinton, decided the United Nations was the place to participate in this discussion. You may recall, our listeners may recall, that this all fell apart at one point in time. We breathed, at least temporarily, momentarily, a sigh of relief, but the administration and others at the United Nations were right back at it. In fact, they agreed initially the administration was only going to allow a treaty that was developed by consensus. Mm-hmm. And they walked away from that standard, which would mean that it has to be an agreement by the United States to all the provisions. They walked away from that standard to one that said we're going to take a vote. And, of course, whatever position the United States may take in the United Nations is probably in most instances going to be voted. And finally, this treaty can be altered by three-quarters majority vote, three-quarters vote of the folks at the United Nations, which means even what we have today, it may get worse. I suppose you could argue it could get better, but I have no faith that that would be the case.
Yeah. Talking with Senator Jerry Moran from Kansas. And, Senator, do you agree there are not 66 votes to ratify this treaty in the Senate right now?
I do. And what we're doing at the moment, in fact, just as Secretary Kerry signed this agreement, this treaty, we've been successful in garnering 24 of my colleagues to once again sign a letter, in a sense a petition, to President Obama, to Secretary Kerry, saying this violates all the things we've outlined to you and the administration over the last 2 years. Our attitude, approach, our votes have not changed, and 24 of us are already saying we would not vote to ratify this treaty, and I have the intention of getting a significantly greater number, Republicans almost with unanimity, and some Democrats will join us in this effort. In fact, the last time we sent a message to the United Nations, to the President about the United Nations treaty, we had 50 signatures on that petition to the administration saying don't do that. So while it's been just a few hours today in which we've been able to have conversations with our colleagues, we're already once again making to the point to the administration, this will not be ratified by the United States Senate.
All right. Well, listen, Senator, I appreciate you joining us. And listen, I know that you've had a lot on your plate here in D.C. to deal with, but just out of curiosity, have you heard about this professor at KU who made the comments about NRA members' children's and what he wants to see happen to them?
Absolutely. This has become a significant topic of conversation across our state, social media and otherwise. And I think as our listeners, at least our listeners from Kansas, may know that the professor has been suspended. And my assumption is what's happening is that the lawyers are now figuring out what they're now capable of doing for some outlandish, ridiculous statements made by a member of the faculty.
Well, let's hope so. Listen, Senator, appreciate you joining us on the program today, and hope we can talk again very soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. U.S. Senator Jerry Moran from Kansas.